Hello folks, and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. And in this episode we're going to continue to work on Old Rusty, and we're going to remove all the parts from the frame. Now that is a lot of work, so that we can actually shot blast the frame and then get it repainted. Taking an old truck apart, or even an old car, is always a dirty job because bolts are seized up, everything is greasy or dirty or rusted away. So it's not a lot of fun to do it, but it has to be done. And with no documentation available on the vehicle, it is even more difficult. So that is why it's so important that you take notes, pictures, or videos of every part that you take apart, because it's going to take a long time before I'm going to put all this back together. And by the time I'm going to put it back together, I will have forgotten on how everything was assembled. I can take a wild guess at that time, but it's so much better to track it while you go. So I'm going to start on this truck by removing the gas tank. It's kind of funny on this truck because it's actually sitting under the passenger seat, so you're actually sitting almost on it. And the filling cap is in the cabin. So nowadays, I guess that would be so weird and it would not be allowed, but in those days everything was possible. The gas tank itself contains about 70 liters of fuel. So it's about 30 by 20, and it's about 1 meter long, so it's between 60 and 70 liters. And if I look inside, I see a lot of debris inside, but not rusted. It's kind of like, I don't know what that is, all dried up fuel. So it's going to need a really, really good clean. But it's not rusted or corroded, that's the good thing. And it smells like, oh, awful. Just, it doesn't even smell like fuel anymore. All right, so we're going to start by removing here this connector, if we can. All right, we got it. It's a very weird connection. I'm just going to put that nut back up so I don't lose it. So now let's remove the sides of the gas tank and see if we can then lift it out. So the gas tank is held in place by these brackets, and in the front it locks to one, and in the back we got a couple of nuts. So I'm just going to get rid of this debris around here. And I can see that we've got, in essence, 2 nuts. And I'm going to let it soak for a while, and I will try to remove it. Now this video may become a little bit boring, because there's going to be a lot of removing bolts and nuts. But for me it's important, because then I have a trace on how I've did it and how I have to put it back together. Okay, that's loose. That didn't go too bad. And you can see that there's some protection up here, so it doesn't damage the gas tank while they are driving it. So it's kind of built. And that still looks quite all right. Okay, so here's that bracket. Now I'm going to undo the other one the same way. And I'm surprised that some of these bolts are coming off fairly easy. Now, some parts of this truck are really rusted and other parts are not. So wherever they have been greasing the truck before, things are pretty well preserved. So now I should be able to take the gas tank out. So the next thing is the removal of the side step. That one we recently quickly put together, and it's not really bolted down, so that should be fairly easy. And I don't need to film this in great detail or take notes because we know this very well. The gearbox is a 3-speed gearbox, and one direct and one reverse, and it's held in place with this top panel and also more in the front. And in the back we've got this shaft which is going to the rear differential, and you can notice that we have this rubber block here. It's kind of a silent block, I would say. That one is cracked, so we will have to replace that one. I'm not sure if we can get this, but I think we can get some universal types for this. So let's see what else we have on this gearbox that we need to double check before we take it out. In the front we have the bell housing, and already have removed the clutch and all that. That's already on the engine that we have restored. And it's a manual clutch, so it's not hydraulic, so we need to depress the pedal here to move things back and forward. So that is connected actually to this side of the gearbox, and that's what we need to disconnect, otherwise that won't work. So the pedals are here on the top, and if I move my clutch pedal, you can see it's moving this whole area here. We have actually springs. These are the springs here. They would come in to the holes that we have here, so that we need to keep in mind. So it would be something like this, so that would keep the pedal coming back up. But we keep that aside for now. And it's this pedal which is important, so I will need to make sure I disconnect this. And there's a couple of ways I can do this. I can disconnect them here, which might be the way I want to do it, and then keep the whole system in the front intact. And also on the bottom I have another nut, so I think that should work. Let's see if we can do this. It would make it easier. So you might think that this is a bit of a waste of time, filming all this and taping it, but it's my reference by the time I'm going to put it back together. And you can see all the dirt which is hanging around, but this is basically all grease that has been collected over the years. So let's see if we can unlock this a little bit. Oh, this is easy. This goes so easy. I wish everything was that easy on this truck. Okay, that's that. Now I should be able to remove that from the pedal. It doesn't seem like. The bottom one I most likely can. Nope, it doesn't work. So we have to disconnect a couple more things. Okay, so let's see. All right, so the next one will be actually all the way down there. So let me see if I can get the camera there. So here we have one bolt that we have to undo, and there's another one on top of it, and that will disconnect the pedal actually from the gearbox. Sometimes I notice there are weird sizes on this truck. Okay, that's it. Can I disconnect it? That's the question. Yep, that went quick, but I think the bolt broke off. Yep, it did. So that's something we will have to drill out. So we are about ready to lift out the gearbox. And all I need to do is to hook it up, and then we can give it a try. And that's about right. But before I can do so, I have to remove these bolts here on this drive shaft, and that might be a little bit tricky to get. So that's number one, and I have two more to go. It's tough, but it works. I'm going to move it in and out a couple of times, so then hopefully we get it out. And it's out. Almost. And I think this has been false threaded before, so no wonder it didn't work. I wonder what else is stuck on that. So I need to see how I can get this out. I might have to remove the others as well. What a job. All right, so this is now disconnected. So I should be able to get the gearbox out. So now with everything disconnected, I should be able to remove the gearbox. But first of all, I'm going to remove this bracket here. So I think that the gearbox is now as good as free. So let's see if we can lift it out. A little bit more so we can pass by the manual brake, and then we should be good to go. All right. The gearbox has 3 gears and 1 direct, and it's not synchronized. So in other words, if you're shifting up, then you have to double clutch. So if you're in first gear, depress the clutch, go to neutral, let the clutch come real quick, depress it again, shift to second gear. And this is how you upshift with this type of a gearbox. Shifting down is a bit different. So if you're in fourth gear and you want to shift down to third gear, you depress the clutch, you take it out of fourth gear, you let the clutch shortly go, you give some throttle so the engine revs up a little bit, and then you depress the clutch again, and then you put it in third gear. So that's how you're shifting down. Quite different than with a modern car. So I'm going to put it aside, and then we continue stripping the frame. So all this is stuff that we will clean up later. Finding the bolts is not going to be an issue. However, finding this flex connection is going to be a different story, I think. Trying to find it in the right dimensions. And this one has had its best time. I can't reuse it. So I will have to look around and see where I can find this.